Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine. Now, as per usual with all of these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and of course, drop me a comment down below. Love hearing about from you guys, it goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this week we are on issue number 55 of good old Combat Patrol magazine. It is part 1 of 2 of our Hernkin Pioneers for the Leagues of Votann. So, 2 sprues, you have almost everything to make 2 of the bikes, I believe. You may actually have enough to build 2 of them. But yeah, there are some parts that you may not be able to do. So for instance, for Chappie on the back of this one, there are certain bits that will be needed off the next sprue that go onto that one. So it's not quite straight sailing with it. You can obviously build at least one of them up, or you could build some parts up and get them ready at least for next week when we get the other sprue and the bases, and then away you go. Make speed things up a little bit for you next week, or you can just save it until next week. Entirely up to you. Now, the good thing with these is they are your standard 40k, well, Warhammer figures really. They have tactical rocks, which act as the kind of the connection point between the hover bike things that the Votann use and the base as well. So they're pretty cool and pretty interesting, and yeah, a unique unit, which is always really, really good. So pretty cool stuff there. And I must admit, I am looking forward to getting going with those because I lost them. Well, say I've lost them. I've misplaced them. I just don't know where exactly they are, but I've got some of those guys already. Anyway, as it's part 1 of 2, you can guarantee what we've got this week, and that's a build guide. So, the Hernkin Pioneers. So, going through all of this, you will notice there are some bits and pieces that are slightly different and can be interchanged. So, for instance, different heads for the actual rider, and there's things like the kind of bits and pieces that go on, can be stowed on the front of a bike and stuff like that, and with a couple of them for different kind of back pieces as well. So you have some options that you can utilize if you want, but pretty cool stuff. So genuinely a pretty cool unit. When they're done, they're very, very straightforward. These are obviously a fast attack unit, so that's why it's basically a speed bike. And then next week we'll have the paint job for it as well, which, you know, you can already tell from the picture on the front. Actually, it's pretty decent. I must admit, I do quite like it. So it's not bad at all. Pretty cool stuff. Going on from there, we get more lore to do with the Leagues of Votann, and it's all to do with the Kin Society. So, the Leagues of Votann are an ancient civilization whose complex traditions frequently confound those outsiders who learn anything about them at all. But as far as the kin are concerned, their society is the height of efficiency and good sense, a tried and tested machine that works to ensure their survival in a galaxy at war. The traditionalist mindset of the kin influences not just their technology, but the very structure of their society, which has remained practically unchanged since time immemorial. The kin prize community above all else, and their natural instinct to pull together has seen their society gradually accumulate into a complex system of overlapping and interlocking groups, the most important of which are kindreds, guilds, and leagues. Whether based on shared genetic heritage, a craft in common, or the veneration of the same Votann, these associations give structure and meaning to the lives of each of their members. Each kin has their allotted place within the group, and while it may appear rigid to others, to the kin, this is reassuringly straightforward design for a society in an unforgiving galaxy. So, the leagues, obviously, as you can tell, they are very, very structured, very, very much like the dwarves in a lot of ways. So they have different guilds, so they have like an engineers guild, an artisan guild, and all that type of stuff. And that's how the Leagues of Votann work as well. So they're pretty cool. They also have information here about the Iron Kin, which were created by the Votann to labour alongside the kin, These are advanced constructs that possess incredible cogitational power. Blur. I can't speak today, apparently. It is what it is. Anyway, but yeah, pretty cool. You get a bit more information about on the back as well to do with the kindreds, guilds, and leagues in themselves. So there are obviously different bands. So you can go with like the different conglomerates and stuff like that if you really, really wanted to, which is pretty cool. So they kind of separate into different factions, and that can depend on what their colouring is, and can also depend on how they work. So I haven't seen the most recent codex for the Votann, but there were specific rules for specific groups within the Votann themselves. So for instance, the Ymir conglomerate would have their own specific special rule, and so would some of the others. So they had that kind of uniqueness about them as well, depending on which grouping you were going for. Anyway, moving on from there, we get a bit more information about orc clans instead, because, you know, it's a Leagues of Votann issue, so why would you have orcs? Anyway, so the Goths may be the biggest and meanest, but they are far from the only orc clan to terrorise the galaxy. Each clan has its own customs, including its own particular way of waging war. Some strange and some surprising, but each and every one a deadly threat to contend with on the battlefield. Imperial propaganda paints the orcs as a horde of indistinguishable brutes, whose simple minds can barely comprehend any thought more complex than war. As such, the idea that they could have any kind of culture is ridiculous to most Imperial citizens. This is a comforting story, and not all that far from the truth, but the reality is much more complicated. Anyone who has made a study of the orcs, either from the safety of a sanctioned librarium or up close on 100 battlefields, will sooner or later begin to discern certain traits that mark out one group of orcs from another. So, a little bit more information about orcs. So obviously there are different clans of orcs, as you may have already know, and I may have already rambled on about in previous issues. So, there are death schools. So they have a nasty reputation as a bunch of no good thieves and sneaky gits. Any death school worth their salt always keeps one beady eye open for useful gubbins they can lift from unsuspecting owners. There are the Evil Sons. So orcs of the Evil Sons clan share a need for speed that borders on an addiction. The aptly named speed freaks of their war bands are never truly happy unless they're hurtling forward at the controls of some dangerously unstable contraption, whether it's in a battle or a breakneck race with their equally deranged mates. Bikes, trikes, trucks, battle wagons, and Dakar jets, or whatever it is, are part of the Evil Sons kind of a remit, and they will pack as much firepower as they can before riding it. So, pretty cool stuff. And I must admit, I do like the Evil Sons a little tiny bit for that. I like the vehicles, so the orcs are pretty cool. Then you got the Bad Moon. So the trade between orcs is based on exchanging teeth, as orcs call them, which makes having fast-growing fangs an economic advantage. This is the blessing shared by the orcs of the Bad Moon clans, whose plentiful teeth make them extraordinarily wealthy. They never miss an opportunity to show off buying the snazziest war gear or daubing gear in yellow, the most ostentatious colour by orc standards. Then there's the snake bites. So the snake bites are more kind of like your beasts and everything like that, and beast snaggers and everything like that, which I must admit, I like the beast snaggers. I think they're really, really cool. And I love the idea of giant squigs that are being ridden into battle, because that's quite fun. So there's a lot to and you've got bloody axes and freebooters on there as well, and freebooters are more pirates, which you can get some of them models. They are very old now, but they are really, really fun and more fun looking, and I've seen some some people do some fantastic conversions with them that make them look really, really good fun. So pretty cool stuff. Moving on from there, though, we have our collect page for our Hernkin Pioneers. Obviously, you can give them their unit name, tick it off whether you built it, painted it, and played with it, and all that good stuff. You can give it their background as well. And obviously, on the other side, we have our data sheet and the fact that they have all the different stats for their range, their movements, and all that good stuff on there as well. Obviously, we already have the data card with that, if I remember rightly. What has all that on there? So pretty cool stuff. Moving on from there, we get more for our campaign. The Chaos Space Marines versus Space Marines. So yeah, Space Marine versus Space Marine, really. In a way, Scorched Earth, basically playing, and it is basically, you know, kill each other as much as possible, really. But yeah, really, really good stuff. And obviously you get to move on and make notes of all your victories, depending on who you're playing as, and everything like that, and who's winning over who. So you can kind of get to a point where every campaign has a winner or a loser, and then you can move on and you can keep on going and going and going and going and going until you have an overall winner at the very, very end. Then we have our campaign that's Chaos Space Marines versus Tyranids, because why not? But yeah, pretty cool stuff. And again, the same with that. And then we have Eldari versus Chaos Space Marines as another campaign as well. Each one has a different kind of scenario that we're playing. So whether it's Sweeping Raid, whether it's Scorched Earth, or Display of Might. Have a bit of fun with it. Enjoy playing with it. Make notes of who's beating who in each campaign, and over time we'll get to the end of campaign, at the end of a run of magazines, and you should, in theory, have an overall victor of the entirety of your Combat Patrol plays through. And then obviously you can replay it all over again and play each kind of scenario against a different faction. So if you wanted to go Eldari versus Space Marines for a Display of Might, you can go, you know, Tyranids versus Votann on there as well if you wanted to. Entirely up to you, but you get to have a lot of fun with it. That is the main core with the magazine. It's all to do with learning how to build, paint and play, giving you some lore and having fun. So yeah, happy days. Just don't take it too seriously if you do lose. But yeah, happy days. Cool stuff there. Next week, issue 56. The other half, obviously, so part 2 of our Hernkin Pioneers. We'll get more information about kin hosts and more stuff to do with our campaigns. And as it says there, Space Marine versus Orcs. Because why not? Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Once we've got that, obviously we can build all 3 and paint it, prime it as way you go. If you are going to prime it with spray paint, in the UK, the weather's changing now, it's starting to get a bit cooler, so you do need to make sure you're doing it on a hotter day. So, you know, between anything over 17 degrees is normally really, really good for spray paint. Anyway, enough rambling about that. Issue 57 and 58, part 1 and 2 of our Chthonian Berserks. So, these are more of our Votann, and they are all kind of more, you know, berserkers with power weapons. They're pretty cool. I do find this annoying, how they've split it into 2, but I understand it. It's, yeah, just frustrating, considering there's so few unit minis in there. Then issue 59, if I remember rightly, is our Boomdaka Snaz Wagon for the Orcs, which is a fantastic mini. And then issue 60 should be our Einherjar half guard. Yeah, I think we're half guard. But yeah, should be the bonus unit to our Combat Patrol, because once we hit issue 58, that is the Leagues of Votann Combat Patrol box done, essentially. And then we just have our bonus unit, which is the Einherjar half guard at the end of it. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Happy days. Really, really good stuff. And then obviously we're going to move on from there. So we have a lot of really good stuff to look forward to. So we still have 3 major factions to look forward to. We have Genestealer Cults, we have Astra Militarum, and we have the World Eaters. Am I remembering that rightly? That's all of it. Yeah, that's all of it. Blimey now. I think I'm having a breakdown. I can't remember exactly everything going on. But yeah, when now that happens, we've got some really good stuff, and we'll have some real good times with it. Obviously, not too many. Well, I say not too many issues left. It still feels plenty. We're still, it's still 35 weeks worth, so more than half a year of magazine to collect. And then obviously there's going to be Spearhead magazine coming out in the near-ish future, which could be really, really good. Unfortunately, some of the Spearheads we've had before with the last good old Stormbringer magazine, which is the biggest downside, in my opinion. A repeat of Sylvaneth. I would have preferred to have seen something else instead of Sylvaneth, just because I'm not a fan of them. And yes, I haven't played a Sylvaneth in Combat Patrol. I am aware that they're tough, but they're not my cup of tea. They're not the faction for me, in my opinion. So, it is what it is. Anyway, enough about that. At some point, we'll go through having a look at all the different Spearheads soon-ish, maybe, hopefully. But yeah, anyway, I've rambled enough now. Thank you very, very much for watching. I will see you sometime soon. Bye-bye now.